welcome back guys. So last time we discussed how perplexity.ai works, and we discussed how it takes the user prompt and then try to retrieve the data based on that prompt, and summarizes, augments and summarizes the data into a user readable format, right? So I tried this prompt, what's the latest update on Iran-Israel war, and it gave us the latest updates as well as made a summary table for it with the key developments, right? So what I'm going to do is today we are going to kind of do the same using SerpApi. So what is SerpApi? It's SerpApi is basically an API to fetch Google results. What you do here is when you type in search, what's the late you are actually searching the Google, right? So Google doesn't allow like web scraping directly. So you can use web SerpApi. It is like 100 searches free for a month. I'm using a different account. You can use different accounts to work with, but 100 searches is enough for demo purposes or learning purposes. You can buy the premium version that will give you maybe thousands searches per month. It's not the best, but it will give, it's reliable at least, and it will give you in a perfect format that you can use for your app or service, right? So I'm using the free version, and this is the API key actually. The API key, please keep the API key hidden. I have actually exposed it, but I'll be disabling this key after this tutorial. So let's see how it works. Let's get directly to the code. Also, please check out the last videos where I've already set up the Open API keys and SerpApi API keys into the .env file. So you will need to do that first. That step comes before starting this code. Go to .env, and in your folder there has to be a .env file, and that won't be visible directly. So please check out the env setting video first and set the SerpApi key for it. And now I'm going to run my code. So we are going to import OS, and this is just to set the API keys directly, environment variables like you do in websites. .env to load the env, OpenAI library, request library will be using to request to SerpApi, this SerpApi library. And beautiful soup, we won't be needing beautiful soup for now. Beautiful soup is another Python library to parse HTML data, but SerpApi already gives you the perfect format, so we don't need beautiful soup for now. And then we just load our API keys. GPT API key is working fine. Let's load our SerpApi key and see if it works. SerpApi key is also working fine. Now if it doesn't load, then check the previous video to to troubleshoot this. Sometimes you can get error if you don't copy paste properly, right? So I'm gonna run you through this. This is the model we'll be working with, right? This is the model actually we are working with. So we'll have our query. This will be a query, and this is what you search in the Google search bar. So what I'm going to do is create a web agent. Let's say it creates a web agent, but this is just basically doing all that stuff that we discussed. We get the answer and we get the sources from this function ask web agent that takes in our query, and we just print the answer in the last, right? So what this function does is ask web agent. This function is basically getting the data, feeding the query to SerpApi, getting the data from the SerpApi. Then after getting the data, it tries to build context from the data, and we get the sources and context from that JSON object. SerpApi returns a JSON object, so we can directly use it. And finally, we generate user readable format answer using LLM or GPT query, right? And give the results back. So this is the SerpApi query I'm going to run. This is the function. It just takes in the engine, which will be Google. Will be using Google, and query prompt that when you search this, you get query like this. What is the latest update on Iran-Israel war? And then you have your API key. Num it doesn't concern you, but keep the number lower for now. So I'm using SerpApi.search, and then you just feed it the params. It will give you a Python object, and you can return directly use this object without parsing or any JSON response type stuff you don't need to do. You can just directly return this. After this result is returned data, we feed it to build context from SerpApi data. Now we are in the build context from SerpApi data. It takes the Python object, source is an empty list, context is empty string for now. Then there is if you check the documentation for SerpApi, there is the response looks something like this. We have search metadata and they clearly tell you how it works. So we'll have some organic results. Organic results are the top found articles from Google on the topic. So we'll be using organic results to summarize our data, right? And this code basically just goes into this organic results object and iterates over, gets the link, title, and the snippet, context, and append the sources, append the link to that article in the sources list, right? And then we also have top stories. Top stories look like this. Let's see, local map, organic map, search information, and related searches. There is related questions. I think there was so you can use any of these. Instead of organic results, you can use related questions for different purpose. You can use local results like for restaurants, and you can also use map. So it can go in quite some depth, but for now we just simply use organic results and keep them in our context, right? It is doing the same for top stories object if there is one. If it's not, then just keep it empty. And finally we just strip the context for spaces and return the sources and context. Finally we have our context and sources. Now we try to generate a GPT answer using our context as well as query. So query is the prompt that we asked. This function, what it does is that it will like initialize OpenAI, and we'll have a system prompt that says that you are a helpful assistant that uses real-time web information to answer accurately. So GPT will behave like an assistant to organize and summarize the context that we provided. And there is a user role prompt with the question and the context from the web we provided in that SerpApi result. We will be using GPT Mini because it's cheap, and basically just temperature 0.5. Keep it realistic, not exact. 0.5 is a good temperature to work with. And maximum tokens, we want to limit the tokens because for learning purposes we don't want to make it expensive for no reason, right? And then we return the response and strip it off the spaces. Finally we have our answer and citations, and then we just print the answer. So let's see if this works. I'm going to run this code from here. So it works. SerpApi has returned this object: search meta data, search parameters, search information. It has given us links to inline videos, search information, total results. So all that you see in a Google web page when you search, SerpApi will return it to you in proper format. Position 3, like this title: Trump's Iran decision to come within 2 weeks, and this title: Israel hits nuclear sites, Iran strikes hospital as war escalates. So these are the real-time results. These are not LLM generated results. Finally, after fetching this, it also gives us links with pagination. Let's go down. It's quite a big object, and this is our answer. This is the context that GPT has built for us as of June 19th. So today it's actually 2:38 a.m. but yesterday was June 19, 2025. The conflict between Iran and Israel has escalated significantly. Israel has vowed to intensify its military operations following an Iranian missile strike that hit a hospital in southern Israel, resulting in casualties, right? Reports blah blah blah, reason to blah blah blah. Additionally, there are discussions concerning potential US involvement in the conflict, with former President Trump expected to make a decision on this matter within next 2 weeks, right? So we have got the summary and we have got the sources. It is also appended the sources down below, right? And what happens is this is a new kind of Google search, and when you do this, actually people stop clicking on the links, and the actual websites or links that they actually lose the traffic to their website. So I am not clicking on this link, I am getting the result right above using Perplexity, right? So this kind of, I don't know where this will lead, but I think this will take over. Most 99% searches uh, can be summarized in just a few lines, and people don't want to go into depth. People just want the surface level idea about the topic and move on with their lives. So I think this is a quite a good project. You can use SerpApi for different purposes. It's just web scraping, replacing the web scraping part, right? Also, in the next video, I'll try to cover different methods. Like for example, I removed the beautiful soup. Instead of SerpApi, which is paid, I have only 100 searches, and I used 2 searches. So 2 out of 100 searches for this month free plan. You can use beautiful soup, but that's going to be pretty hard to parse the HTML. What beautiful soup does is that it will make a request to Google and fetch the HTML, and then you can parse it manually. But it's going to be quite hard, so I wouldn't recommend it. Use SerpApi or some other Bing, like Bing search also allows 1,000 searches per month. I think it's free. So use some paid version or at least a free monthly plan to learn. You can use beautiful soup, but it won't be practical. I think that covers it for now. Thank you guys. Please stay tuned for the next video. I think I'll try to make new projects, new actually useful practical projects instead of just repeating the theory. Cool. Thanks guys.